Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I see that there are people all over the world. As always, we have Peru, India, Vietnam, Italy, Croatia, Poland, Bangladesh, Spain, Germany, Mexico. Oh my, it must be very early in some places and very late in others. And Gigi, are you there?
Okay, yes, here I am.
Gigi, great.
I wasn't sure if you wanted me to open the camera right now or later.
I'll introduce you properly in a moment, Gigi, but I'm glad you're with us. Okay, a very quick bit of housekeeping. This webinar will last about an hour, no more. This and all the Transformative Teachers webinars are recorded, and when the recording is available for you to watch, you will receive an email notification and it will be available to watch through the link that you receive, and it's through the Transformative Teachers website. All of our previous recordings are there, and this one will be too. On your screen now, you should be able to see myself and Gigi, but your cameras and your microphones are turned off because there's many of you. However, we would love you to contribute in the chat box or in the Q&A box. So if you have a particular question for Gigi, please put it in the Q&A box. I will look at that throughout the webinar, so we will try to answer as many questions as we can through the webinar, and if we have some time at the end and there's any more questions, we can discuss then. But you can also use the chat box. Gigi might be asking you some questions. You can reply in there. You can share ideas and experiences with each other in the chat as well. But please remember that the chat isn't recorded. It isn't part of the recording for privacy reasons. So if there's anything really important in the chat that you want to save, then make a note. So I think that's that. I will stop sharing and introduce Gigi. This is Gigi Lynch. She is joining us from Buenos Aires, Argentina, the other side of the world from where I am, the opposite end of the seasons from where I am. She has been a teacher for over 30 years. She's worked as a primary and a secondary school teacher. She's worked as a supervisor, a manager, an examiner, a materials developer, curriculum designer. So she has the full spectrum of experience. And since 2004, she has worked as the English language coordinator. Is that the job title, Gigi?
Yeah.
At the Mother Teresa School in Buenos Aires. She's very, very passionate about what she does. And she's here today to share her passion about her school and how her school works with the students in the particular scenario that they have. So Gigi, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction. Welcome everybody. And as you say, I have a lot of passion for my school. I would say I have a passion for communication, if that could be like an umbrella term, because I love everything that has to do with communication, not only inside the school, but with people in general. I believe my life is good because I can relate to people and talk to people. So that would be I would say that would be my description, yeah, that I love communication. And well, let's go on. Let's go to our webinar. You know, my name is not really Gigi, you know what I look for. You might imagine. My name is Maria, which is a very Spanish and Argentine name, but nobody calls me Maria, so my name is Gigi for you. Okay. Okay, there we go. Can you see my screen then?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as you said, we will be talking about ELT classrooms. We will be talking about bridges, and we will be talking about inclusion. Yes, that would be like, and we will be talking about mediation. And in fact, this webinar in itself is a mediation activity. I've been working on the things that I want to talk to you about. And in a way, we are having a mediation activity ourselves all together. Okay, so that's first thing I want to say. As you said, my school is in Buenos Aires. We are based in a city that is called San Fernando, which is in the northern area of Buenos Aires, just 40 minutes away from the city of Buenos Aires. If you've been in Buenos Aires, you might recognize this map. And the school was founded 20 years ago. And I've been here, as you said, for 17 years. I've been working at Madre Teresa for 17 years. So, I mean, we kind of grew together as a school and as a coordinator. I'm still coordinating there and I teach. I do both things, yes, in Madre Teresa school. And I also teach at another private school. So this is a photo, a recent photo of the school. I thought it was important for you to have a picture of what the school looks like. Yeah, it's a very, very big school, a very modern school. It's beautiful. The classrooms are really big and spacious for our students. But the school is located in an area where the surrounding neighborhoods are very deprived neighborhoods. They are the most vulnerable neighborhoods in the district of San Fernando. Okay, so all our students live near the school. They live at walking distance, and they all face the similar vulnerable conditions. Okay. And there's a link here with a YouTube video that if you then get to the presentation, probably you will get the link to watch the video where you can see more about our school. And let me just talk a little bit more about our school, because I think it's important that you get to have an idea of the context. Yes, there are some numbers here that you can read. But for you to have an idea of the unfavorable conditions, yes, 62% of the adults that are in charge of our students, they haven't finished primary school, or they have they have only finished primary level of education, okay? Then 53% of the adults that are in charge of our students, they are unemployed or they have an informal job. And their incomes, they are below the poverty line in 7 out of 10 of our families. Then, of course, we have, in most cases, overcrowding conditions at home, and they don't get access to internet, okay? So what you have is unfavorable conditions that make it very hard for our students to gain access to the opportunities that they need to develop and prosper. So our mission is to create conditions for inclusion and for them to have the possibility to develop their personal life project. Again, there's this link where you can find in my presentation that will lead you to our website, and you will find all the things we do. And I hope that today I can give you a grasp of what we do to achieve this inclusion.
Gigi, is your school, are there other schools that you know about that are similar to your school, or is it quite unique?
I think it's quite unique, at least in the northern area. There's one more school near here, but it's not as big as us, as our school. And apart from that, our school is not only primary and secondary school, we also have an orchestra that, is on after school. And we have hockey for the girls. And there's also a big space for students who finish school, or for members of the neighborhoods, which maybe they don't come to school, but they can participate in activities for the young people who need, like, to learn about working skills. So there are other activities apart from the primary and the secondary level.
So your school is very important within the community.
Very, very. And in these 17 years that I was telling you that I started 17 years ago, I saw so many changes in the neighborhood and in the families, in the sense that because the students could come to school and stay at school, we say stay at school all day long. So for parents, it was easier to find a job because the students were at home. So it was like, luckily we saw lots of improvements in the neighborhood, yes, because of what the school offers to all the community.
Amazing.
Okay. So when we talk about inclusion, the first thing you should know, and probably some Argentine participants that are today at the webinar will agree with me that the first thing you have to think about is about our rate of school dropping out, because in Argentina, in secondary school, the rate is of 50%. That means that half of the students that enter secondary school will not finish, they will drop out. And that is something, I mean, presence in itself is a challenge for us. Yes, so to have the students stay at school all along secondary school is really, really a great achievement. Fortunately, we can say that Maria Teresa has achieved this in these years. Yes, so but that's the first thing you have to think about when you talk about inclusion. Yes, but for us, inclusion is much more. So inclusion implies involvement, participation, cooperation, and achievement. So what I'm going to talk about today has more to do with this, with making our students more involved, to engage more in activities, and in that way to, again, learn how to develop a life project. Yes.
Well, I suppose that those 4 things are what creates the presence.
Yeah, probably. Yes, probably. But you know, there are other, here in Argentina, some students are, I mean, parents can't get help from the state if their children don't go to school, for example, because some people, I mean, poor communities get help from the state, but they have to show that the students, that their children go to school. Yes. So sometimes for some people, it's just, well, just go to school. You know, so there's a thin line there between, you see. So
it's quite complicated.
Yeah. So now I'm going to talk especially about ELT, yes, and our secondary school. So you should know that our students, they have this level of English. Yes, they start with an A1 plus, they go through all the A2 level, and some of them get to have a B1 minus level, but most of them end up with an A2 plus level. Okay, and our school has the same objectives as any other school. As you will see, we want students to read, to write, to listen, to speak, to interact in meaningful situations. Yes, to be able to use the language meaningfully in real life situations. But because of the conditions that we have at home, we know that most probably they won't be able to have these situations at home or in their social life. So it's only at school, I mean, it's at school that they get to have these situations, the real life situations. And we have little time for the ELT classrooms, yes? The students get to have 2 periods, 3 periods, yeah, of English a week. So we have to be very careful when we choose what to do in the classroom, because we have to, sometimes we can't do everything, okay? So we need to choose what's best for them. And again, even though today I'm going to talk about mediation activities, what I want you to know is not the only thing we do. I chose to talk about this, but we do lots of things that are not mediation, okay? And again, the focus is always on trying to find meaningful situations that can recreate what might happen in their daily life. Or also, we talk a lot about future possible situations. So we're always talking to the children about, well, maybe in the future, maybe when you grow up, you will need it at work, you will need it to travel, you will need it at your job. So we also talk a lot about this idea of dreaming, about using the language independently. Okay.
So this is relevant to all language learning, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's ultimately and sometimes students forget along the way that's why they're learning a language. It's for
exactly, it's for everybody. But what you might see is that because of their situation at home, there is a lot of demotivation, disillusionment, you know, they don't dream much. So you need to always think about giving them, like, you know, hopes that the future will be better, which you might not see that in other contexts. Okay. Okay. So having said that about the mediation thing, I'm going to talk about mediation, but I mean, we can't have, if we had 2 hours to talk about my school, I would, you know, talk about many other things, but let me talk about mediation. So I'm not going to give a lot of time for the theoretical aspects of mediation, but just in case somebody hasn't heard of it, I don't know, Lucy, when was the first time you heard about it, about mediation activities?
I don't know.
Okay, so my first time was during the pandemic. First time I heard about the word mediation in education, you know, because the word mediation is applied to other fields of the life. And the first time I heard about it, I said, what's this? I've never heard of it. Scott Thursbury was the one that talked about it in the Trinity annual conferences. So when the conference finished, I started like doing, you know, that in the pandemic, we were all the time in front of the screen, or a lot of time. So I started doing my research. I went into the companion volume and I realized that it was something so, so new. Then I started like trying to find things in the net to tell me how you deal with this at school, because I thought it was something that we were doing without knowing we were doing it, you know. So there was so much mediation in our lives and so much mediation at school, and I didn't know that it was, they gave a name to what was doing at school, yes. And the nice thing was they were not only describing what was happening at school, but in the companion volume you have, the how to teach it, not so much, but how to assess it, which is a different thing, you know, which is the different thing about mediation. And do it just because, or just it was a spontaneous thing that was not planned. And after I read about it in the companion volume, I started working on the planning and on the assessment of these activities. Okay, and the companion volume gives this definition that mediation activities is when the user of the language acts as a social agent who needs to help construct meaning. This is just a part of the definition. And the word that I want to highlight, because I think it's a word that helps you understand what it is the word help. So when there's mediation, somebody needs help. Okay, so there's a communicative situation where somebody is going to help another person, and there is always a text involved, you know, because there's something in the text that a person can't understand. Maybe he can understand only a part, or maybe he can't understand it at all. Okay, and there are many types of mediation. Today, we're going to talk about mediation of texts. I'm not going to talk so much about cultural mediation, but of course, when you mediate a text, probably there will be times when you do both things. And of course, you will mediate concepts as well. But they talk about three types: mediating texts, mediating concepts, and mediating communication, okay? And there's also this distinction between mediation and cross-linguistic mediation, which is when you jump from a text that comes, for example, in English, and you transform it into a text in Spanish, okay? So we will be talking about this today, okay? And here, there are, at school, because the level of English is low, yes, the performances that you will see are probably very simple performances, okay? So you will see, for example, students that relay in Spanish simple instructions that were made in English, or, for example, they may relay in Spanish the main point in short messages that were given in English, or the most relevant data in an announcement, or they may explain in Spanish some basic visuals like graphs or bar charts with information that was in English. Or they, for example, they may talk about the main ideas of a story that was written in English, probably maybe with some visual aids, but you see the text will always be simple texts, yes, because of the level of English, okay? And I also want to talk about the fact that the mediation activities are a very good example of what has been referred to as the multilingual turn. Probably, Lucy, you have heard about that, where students use they are allowed to use all of their linguistic repertoire when learning a language, okay? Mm-hmm. So now we'll go to the exact and concrete examples that we do at school. Yes? Okay. First thing you think about is that when you have to help a tourist. Okay, so this is a wonderful situation that our students love to do. They don't have to do, they don't get to do it a lot, but they love thinking about it. Okay, and in general, Buenos Aires is a city that is full of tourists. Okay, so it's possible that they have this situation that they see in our area. There's a place near here, near the river, which is called Tigre, and in general, it's full of tourists. Yes. So it's possible that they get to have this situation. But what we do sometimes is we recreate the idea of that a tourist is coming. It's not here, he's coming. So he sent a mail to them and he asked some questions. So we need to help him. Yes, we need to tell him about what's going on here in Buenos Aires, and especially in their own place, yes, in San Fernando. So we might find this kind of infographics, which are in Spanish, which are in the City Hall's page, yes, Facebook page. We might project them on the board. So we will think about which is the information that he needs. Maybe the tourist asks, what show can I see? I'm going from this date to, so we have to give a lot of information about who the person that needs the help is. This is very important for mediation. You need to explain the situation in detail so that the student knows what are the needs of the addressee. Okay, so the student will pinpoint from the visuals the information that needs to be, used in the mail. So the reading is done in Spanish, but when they have to go on with the activity, they will write in English to the tourists who can't speak in Spanish. Okay.
Gigi, why do you think your students love doing this activity?
Well, the fact that we tell them that they can use Spanish, which is something that when I was when I was younger, I would be like hiding that. Yeah, I'm using Spanish in the class. So that's one thing, because they feel more confident, Their self-esteem is really low. Our students in general, they struggle a lot with learning in general, not only with English. And sometimes English is like a distant thing for them, It's not something close. So in this case, what they see is that they can that they can enrich the situation with their knowledge of their own language. So it's like, again, it's this bridge. So something that appears to be distant, because they can connect it with their own language, it's like more familiar and it becomes something possible for them. Okay, that would be like more or less a summary. Okay. You will see that what they will be, this is for the students that have a low level. So you see that they will talk about dates. Okay, you can see from the visuals that they will talk about time. Okay, they will even talk about the word run, which is in English. You see that the infographics here, we do that a lot. We do a lot of translanguaging here in Buenos Aires, well, everywhere. So we might discuss about the use of words in English in the visual. So there's a lot of, I think there was a webinar on infographics here in the Trinity webinar series, which was very interesting.
There has been, yeah, we have had it as part of a talk.
Yeah. I love infographics for the class. Yeah. So another thing that you can do, which is similar, but again, here you will see the asado, Lucy, that I know you love, and the mate, which is, there are many Argentine participants today. So what we might do is this idea of using mediation to talk to a tourist, but in this case, it would be an oral. We will recreate it, so we will have 3 people. One is the speaker, the Spanish speaker, who can't speak English, but he knows a lot about mate and about asado.
So mate is like the drink, isn't it?
Exactly.
I think many countries in South America and Uruguay as well. I saw people carrying mate
everywhere.
Bags everywhere and on every TV program, and so this is a very kind of deep cultural thing that I can imagine your students would want to share with people.
Exactly. We love having mate in all our, especially if it is a social situation. Okay, so and we know that it's ours. It's something that belongs to our culture. So, but you can do it with mate, you can do it with anything that you feel is close to the students, and it is something like everyday life, but you want to share it because the other person haven't heard of it. So you will have 3 people, maybe, when one is the Spanish speaker, then you have the tourist who can't speak Spanish, and in the middle you have the mediator, you see? So he's the one, sometimes the teacher can be the tourist, and she can pretend she can't speak Spanish, okay? So you have this idea of, okay, one speaks in Spanish. Y el mate la tomamos cuando estamos en familia, so they would speak in Spanish, okay? And the mediator will sort of translate and relay the information. There's some previous preparation for this role playing where they might read an infographic so that they know which words they will be needing, okay? And we pretend that there's somebody who can't understand Spanish, English, you see? So there's this recreation. And this is a typical situation that you might find in our schools, yes? Where there's somebody pretending, that we can't understand Spanish.
So I guess that the mediator then has a great sense of achievement, no matter how much English they're able to use, because they're able to use more than the person who doesn't speak any, and
exactly.
So their role is important just because they're helping two people to communicate, and their level doesn't matter. I like that very much.
And the fact that they can help. In fact, our school, I mean, the word help for our school is like, we are here to help. So students in our school, they are all oriented to helping. I mean, they love doing that, and they know that it is something valuable to help others. So whenever you place to put them in a situation where they have to help, in most cases, they enjoy it, okay? And they find it meaningful, okay? And in fact, even though their level of English is low, they do that at home a lot because parents can't speak in Spanish. So they do this a lot at home, more than any other, communicative situations where they have to just use English. So they see that this is something they can immediately go home and say, I can help my mother because she can't understand some words in English, even from sometimes from a home supply, appliances. So they can't read the words, they are in English, and they help the mother because there are some things the mother can't understand. So they see that it's something that it is immediately, transferable to home situations, okay? Well, another thing we did, and this was very, very meaningful for the students, we wanted to have a bilingual library. Our library is very beautiful, it's very, very big, it has lots of books, and there's an area for books in English. But the only thing that you could see was a word that says Inglés. That was the only thing. So it was an area that said Inglés. Because the librarian, she can't speak in English, and when they organized it, it was like, and it was there for a long time. And last year we realized that we wanted our students to go to the library and pick a book. And I said, and I told them, well, there are lots of books in English, but all the signs are in Spanish. And we can do this differently. We can organize a bilingual library. So we asked the librarian to give us a talk. The talk was in Spanish. She told us about the way the library was organized, how she placed the books and the different areas. She also talked about the code of behavior. You might think that our students know about it, but not all of them go to the library a lot. So it was a nice way of having them involved in the life of a library, okay? Once they had this first step, they went back into the English class, and we worked on the vocabulary that is specially required when you're in the library. That we did all that in English. And then we prepared the labels for the different parts of the library, with the labels for the shelves and some signs for the, with the code of behavior. So the idea is that all together we build the library, a bilingual library, and that we are thinking about other students who will be like the recipients of our mediation, because they will go to the library and they will read the signs, okay? So the help will come like in the future when other students go to the library and read what they read, okay? It's something typical we do a lot, okay? In a similar way, when they have to pick a reader, what we thought it would be nice to tell other students what the reader is about. So the reader is in English. So they will have to read the book, maybe make a summary. Sometimes if the level of the book was for little children, then the book review, because it's like a book review, they had to make a summary in Spanish of what the book is about, and they can even put the level of the book and maybe do some recommendation, which if the book is for people with a low level of English, the recommendation can be in Spanish, and if the book is for somebody who can speak a little bit more of English, the recommendation will be in English. So again, and the teaching, what's the teaching here? What you teach mediation when you teach the students, for example, to make a difference between talking about the facts, talking about what the story is about, and then the recommendation, which is your opinion. So in the teaching of mediation, there's always this, the teacher has to be always telling students, be careful. One thing is what you have to, one thing is the text, what the text says. And then you might give your opinion or your personal view on the topic. So this is something that we do a lot. It has to do with something we'll talk about later, which is critical thinking, but it is this idea of, with very little things, show the difference between what facts are and what opinions are, which are completely different.
So Gigi, I've been teaching that with university students this week.
Okay. How was it? How was it? It's not
well,
so
I'm not sure
so
because
easy.
they are handing their assessments today. So we'll
Okay.
see. We'll see.
Okay.
But I'm really curious to hear that you're doing that in your school at a secondary school level, and you're not waiting. Why do you think that's such an important skill to distinguish?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult for them. I think it has to do with adolescents. They think that they are the center of the world, and they think that they know everything, and that their opinion, maybe that can be one explanation. No, but I think it's something, it has to do with cognitive development. Yes, it's something you do as you grow up. But again, for our students, starting with little things as reading a story and making a difference between what the story says and what I think about it, I think that would be like the first step. But that happens generally with creative text. This is very good because their opinion comes together with their feeling about it, their reaction. So when you talk, oh, I enjoyed it, or it was delightful, you're giving an opinion, when you are expressing, when you're using one adjective. If you put an adjective to what you've read, just you're giving an opinion. So we talk about this from the very beginning. When you express your likes, when you express your preferences, you are giving an opinion, which is not the same as when you say, my name is Gigi, I'm 53 years old. Well, that's fact. Okay, and somebody will say, oh, I'm very hardworking. Oh, maybe that's an opinion. Okay, so you see. Okay. So another thing, let me show you more signs. You see, you will see this all around our school, and you see that the signs, they have been done by the students. So they themselves think about the needs to place signs around the school so that the English is more familiar. So when they come to work, for example, when they have to prepare for the GESI grade 3, where they have to talk about the different places in the school, it's so easy. They've been watching the names all around, and so it's not something they see on the paper. They've seen it for a long time. They walk around the school and their life is there. They spend a long time at school. So we think that this is very important, that we have visual exposure, and we take it as a help for all the community. Everybody is learning, not only our students. Some parents profit from coming and reading signs in English, okay?
So it's a very simple thing to do. You need the signs anyway. You have them in English as well.
Exactly.
And they have that exposure.
And whenever there's something going on, for example, once a year we have the Mother Teresa's Day. Well, every year they choose one quotation or one phrase, and we work on it. So as you see our yellow sign here, so there will be signs with a quotation everywhere. Well, in the English class, we do them in English. So we are always trying to sort of, have this coming and going from one language to the other one, which is this cross-linguistic mediation thing. Well, again, this idea of mediating creative texts, yes? So when you work with creative texts, such as songs, short stories, the ones that I mentioned before, there's something we do a lot, which is bringing videos to the classroom, because they don't watch videos in English. When they have to choose, they go to the videos in Spanish. So we bring them a lot of short videos, internet videos. There was one we saw that I included in the PowerPoint, which is we had to work on traveling, vocabulary for traveling. So we had this video made by this influencer who had to travel. He had 10 days and he made a short video of all the places he visited. And what we do is we pair the students. We have a fast learner sitting with a slow learner. So the fast learner will help the slow learner or the learner with a lower level, okay? So we would have questions on the video, we will interrupt the video, and the student that has a higher level will be the mediator. So we will be assessing on him the mediation skills, and the other student will be getting the help. And again, they feel more engaged when they have to help a friend. And the student that gets the help, he's happy that he's not getting it from the teacher, he's getting it from the other friend, you see? So there is this idea of, we are working together, we have this problem, we want to understand this video, so let's help each other. And that, is wonderful, and it is happening all the time in our classes, okay? Because we have lots of different levels of English within same groups, lots, 3, sometimes 4, okay? So you can do this quite often.
Gigi, there's a couple of questions in the Q&A box here. One of them is about how long you use this bilingual sort of approach for. I think the person who's asked the question is saying, do you use it just until primary school level? But your school is a secondary school, isn't it?
I'm the coordinator of a secondary school. Our school is primary and secondary. I use it. I've been working in secondary school. I would say that we've been using this for a long time, but the only thing is that we didn't know it was called mediation.
I think the question is about using both languages until what level? But because there is this feeling, I suppose, that maybe, students can use their first language just as a way to help them, but then they need to stop doing it. I don't know.
I see. No, it's what I was telling you. It's not that we do it all the time. There are other activities where we don't. It's what I said at the beginning. Don't think because I'm going to talk today about this, it's because it's the only thing we do. We do other things. But again, the level of English of our students is very low, and they are not, they are not independent users. So the idea is that in the future, this is it's a bridge, it's scaffolding things so that they start becoming more independent as they, they reach high levels of English. So I agree with, you have to be careful that the students don't over rely on the use of their mother tongue, okay? So it's a gradual thing, but you shouldn't be afraid of using it when you think it will bring more engagement. That's my tip again. And of course, there are students who profit more from it, then you will have all sorts, yes? And there are teachers who will, and again, another risk is that if you don't assess this, then you have to be assessing so that they know that they are doing this because they're learning something and not just because they want to, get away with it. So the assessment is important.
So it's not about the age or the schooling level of the students, it's about their level of English, their confidence, and how long they need that scaffolding for.
Yeah, I would say that in primary, sometimes you don't need it so much, because in primary, the mediation activity implies some maturity as regards also. So in primary, you might work with this, you might do some development of skills, which then they will need for mediation. For example, this thing I was talking to you about, critical thinking. In primary, if you develop critical thinking and if you teach your students to distinguish between fact and opinion, you will not be doing it with mediation. But when the moment comes to teach mediation, they've already learned about it with other things, you see. But as in primary, they play much more. They use the language for games. I mean, I don't think you will use cross-linguistic mediation a lot, or mediation in general in the primary level. Again, I'm the coordinator of the secondary school, but I would say that we tend to do this with the students that are older. Yes, so at least that's what's going on in my Teresa school. Okay.
We have, just so you know, we have 20 minutes left. There's another question in here, but if it's okay, we'll come back to that a bit later.
Lovely. So we've run. Okay. So let's skip this example. So let's skip this one. I want to go directly into this one. So there's something happens at school. It's once a year, which is our English Day. Yes, this is I would say that it's the day where mediation and inclusion, they are at their best, because we see that the students in real life, they talk about what they've been doing in the English class, and they talk about it and explain it to their families. Okay, so students know about this day for in advance. They know that it's the day where they have to talk about what they've been doing. They've been working on stories, they've been working on images, describing images, making dialogue. So in the English class, we start thinking about how can we show our families what we've been learning in the English class. So because the first time we did it, they didn't know what it implied, but now we've been doing this for a long time. So they start getting ready, yes? And they have to prepare, not only, they have to do the English classes as they are, but then they will, for example, write invitations. Probably invitations might be in both languages. They will write thank you notes in both languages. And the day of the English Day, everybody has to know what happens if a mother or a father comes and asks me about what is on the wall. Okay, and I have to talk about it and explain it. Okay, so we practice that. And so you will see some photos of our English Day here. So where you see, people pointing at things that are on the walls. You will see students holding a microphone and talking about what they've been doing. And families enjoying the fact that we are learning together, because the idea of telling parents what we've been doing is that the whole family is like going through the process of learning and of growing. Okay. And another thing we do on the English Day is that we give out the certificates of the Gigi exams. So it's the day where we give out the certificates. And let me tell you about this. First of all, the day of the exam, there are spontaneous cross-linguistic mediation activities, which are like this. Each student that goes into the examination room stays there for, 5-7 minutes. And whenever the student comes out, there's another student who's in the waiting room who would start asking, ¿Y cómo te fue? ¿Cómo te fue? Contame, ¿qué te preguntó? ¿Cómo te sentí? Everything. So they start speaking in Spanish about the oral text that went on in the examination room. Okay? There's no assessing there, because it's something that, they're nervous, so they want to talk about the exam. But you see, there's this mediation. So the story that the student that is going into the examination room next gets some sort of help from the one that has just been there. Okay. And then the day of the show, we do this, but we prepare it. We ask the students who did the exam to write in Spanish what was going on during the examination. Again, they will talk about the facts, what happened, what the teacher asked, the examiner asked, and then they will give their opinion, and maybe they give some suggestion for the students that are in the English Day, on the English Day, like listening, the audience, and who will sit for the exam maybe in 2, 3, 4 years. You see? So again, it's sharing and mediating. In this case, was the oral text, which is the interview, into another oral text, which is the Spanish text that the students give. You see here Brian, who's one of our students, talking about the exam. So
Gigi, sorry, just a quick thought. It occurs to me that a lot of what you are asking the students to do are things that can give them a sense of pride.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. You've got the idea. They feel very proud about being able to speak in Spanish, maybe because it's the first person in the family that speaks in English, sorry. And of course, the idea of having the opportunity to give the exam, the Trinity exam, then I'm going to talk about it, but it is something that for them is really, really, I mean, meaningful, and they're very proud of that. Yes.
Well, I think all of the activities you've talked about, I've been thinking they will feel proud to have that role, to do this, to, you know, to talk about their town to a tourist, or to help somebody who can't understand something. That seems to be.
And also they love their school, you know, they spend a long time at school. We are all, I mean, from as they enter school, they know they have to look after the school. Our school is beautiful, and it is theirs. So everything that has to do with making our school more beautiful, more useful, I mean, they get involved, they love it, you know. So there's this idea also that it's a community, that the school is for them and they own the school. So whatever they do to make it a nicer place to learn, that's also something that they enjoy a lot, okay? And it's not something we do overnight, you see. It's like little by little, it takes time. So as I was telling you, our library has been there for a long time, but it was just last year that we saw, oh, there are only Spanish signs, you see.
Yeah.
So
yes. There's always something
we do it yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I have a lot of time. Yeah, just for me to talk about the 4 skills that I chose to talk about, the 4 C's, because they are the most common ones. But when you start working with mediation skills, you see lots of skills that you can develop. Of course, you have communication. This is like obvious. In this case, the mediation has helped us find the real audience, you know, which in communication and when teaching English is very important. So the idea of finding a real person or a real group of students who will read or who will listen to what we have to say makes the community development much easier, okay? So again, this can be the friend in the classroom. Then there's this thing about listening, you know, which in communication is like the first step. So if you want to help a friend who's watching a video or who's reading a book and he can't understand, first you have to listen. What is it that you need? What help do you want me to give you? So the first step in a communication process is that you need to know what the other person is saying or what the other person needs. So I would say that is great with mediation, because somebody needs help, but what kind of help? I can't just say anything. I want to say what the other person needs, okay? Then, of course, there's this cooperation, which it's kind of obvious. There's something we have to solve. So we have the same objective. There will be roles in the process. There will be management of some obstacles as regards, for example, time management. Yes. So the idea of when there's communication, there's always more than one person. It's just not just talking. There's always more than one part involved. So there's cooperation between 2 parts, maybe on the same side, or even between the 2 parts that are, you know, that have the text that need to be understood. Yes. So building communication is something that we do as a group, as a team, let's say. Then there's critical thinking. So let me tell you, but you've probably, with my examples, you've seen this idea of choosing and evaluating sources of information. There were 1 or 2 examples I didn't mention, but sometimes they can use internet to find the information that the tourist needs, for example. So they will have to find the information and select what information will be useful. And from that information, again, identify which are the elements that the tourist or the person who will be reading the text later will need, okay? So this involves a lot of cognitive movements, yes, that our students are developing as they solve the mediation activity, okay? of course, there is this simplifying and explaining difficult information. Remember, I was telling you that our webinar is in itself a mediation activity. So to be able to prepare for this webinar, I had to simplify because there were so many things I had to say. Lucy, you helped me a lot when you gave me some tips as to what to choose from all the things I had to say. So there was a lot of thinking, mind you, after we talked, because I had to choose and simplify. Some of the times it might be enlarging the information. So it depends on the situation, but again, there's a lot of thinking here, okay? And well, what I said about mediating and giving your own opinion, which are two different things altogether, okay? And finally, the creativity, which probably you've seen when students have to choose how to explain or how to mediate the text. You saw it in the English day when you're working with creative text. This is wonderful, okay? So what we ask our students is to choose. We are always like encouraging our students to find original ways into expressing their own feelings and what they want to say, okay? Sometimes it's not just inventing a new way, but combining two things. So in mediation activities, they get to choose how to, how to tell the other, how to help the other person, okay? So these sign things, some signs they have to, how to make it visually attractive. So there will be also some creativity there, okay? So I probably imagine that you are thinking about lots of examples in which creativity is developed through mediation skills, yes? So these are the last, I don't know how much time you have, Lucy.
10 minutes, Gigi, you're doing great.
So,
maybe I have to go back and do the missing ones.
Lovely. No, I just want I added this after talking to you. These are like a summary, okay, of all the things I've been saying. So what are the advantages that we see? The advantages are that you bridge communication gaps, because by using L1, you make meaning accessible and you facilitate comprehension of English content. You build confidence and motivation. Remember about our students, where they come from, okay? So they need a lot of motivation to use the language, to learn English. They don't see it so clearly that it's something they will need in the future. You have to talk about it. You have to build that motivation. It's not intrinsic, okay? And you provide learners with a sense of support and assistance. Yes, you boost their confidence. So you will allow learners to feel empowered. And as I was telling you, gradually transition to using English more independently. Okay, let me give you two more. You will promote cultural understanding when you have this recreation of people from different cultures. In that sense, you will be, the mediation of cultural concepts. You, little by little, you promote cultural understanding. In mediation, there's always this idea. In fact, I think mediation for the British Council was because in Europe, you have so many immigrants. And in the same classroom, you have all sorts of languages, probably. So if you transfer this into classrooms where there are many languages and many cultures in the same class, we don't have that. We don't have that in Argentina. But I feel that if you transfer this into other contexts where you have all sorts of cultural, encounters within the same classroom, mediation activities are good in this sense, because you foster this idea of empathy, and it's very useful. And again, you also do this language awareness, when you come from one language to the other in secondary school, you do a lot of, understanding why the language in English is this way. And in Spanish, we do it in some other way. So it's we're not just translating, for example, word by word. And it's not a translation that, a certificate translator would do. We're always trying to think about mediating an idea or a text that will help the other person. So we will choose only some things, okay? And maybe the transformation of the original text, because in Spanish you would say it in some other way to be more effective. So again, this is something that is like an advantage, let's say. And as regards the difficulties, maybe it is what I was telling you about. I mean, we've been working on this as a systematic practice for a very short time, okay? So the assessment is still something we need to work on, okay? And there's always this tension which happens, I mean, in all other areas, not only in the teaching of English, where you have to make a balance between the development of skills and the learning of the content, okay? So teachers would tend to assess the content, and they would be looking at, oh, did he use the verb in the correct way? And there are other things going on. So you need to work with teachers on that. In my case, I use the companion volume a lot because the descriptors there are very good, not only to think about the activities, but to organize rubrics. Again, they are very little things, but you have to start like systematizing this so that it becomes something that you plan, something that you know, I mean, you can improve. So if you assess, you can improve and you can do it better. But again, this is something that is recent. So it's something that needs development, okay?
It seems that there's an important balance to not just to find, but to keep checking with this. So if students always translated directly from their language into English, say, then they're missing so much. It's not communicative. Whereas if they're never doing that, which is what I think we teachers tend to do. No, don't use your dictionaries. No, listen to the description in English. You could be missing other things. So you're talking about using L1 in a very careful, thoughtful way to support where it's needed, but then as you say, you need to, it's more complicated to assess. So it seems that there's a balance, but and maybe you're constantly checking it, but it's you have to strike it.
It's like a balance, you know, you have to strike a balance between and using cross-linguistic mediation as a tool, like it is as good as other tools where you promote immersion, you know, in authentic English language context. So you have to gradually reduce the reliance on the L1, yes, because you need your students to go and to be independent users. But they will always be Spanish speakers. And their repertoire, what they know about their language in Spanish is not something they have to ban or forget when they are using their English, knowledge. So we do that all the time at school because it's not that much what they know. So we need to use everything they bring, and we need to tell them what you've learned with the Spanish teachers. Well, we can use it now. We are going to use it. It saves a lot of time. Again, we have very little time with them, you know. Yeah. So it's time saving to say, oh, so you've been learning this, so now we're going to use it to make our communicative situation more meaningful.
Speaking of which, we have 2 minutes.
Okay. So that's it. I just wanted to say that I didn't mention the word bridge a lot. I don't know if you want to talk about what do you feel about a bridge? What is a bridge to you? Or maybe people can say.
In the chat.
Maybe, if you think about a bridge, what comes to your mind? So we didn't use the word bridge a lot, and it's the title of our webinar. So I thought, I have talked for a long time, but I haven't talked a lot about bridges. I don't know what people can say about it.
People are saying, it connects and opportunity, lots of connection, links, reaching out.
Yes, exactly.
Reaching from one place to another.
Yes.
A structure that a bridge, it bridges a divide or a gap. This is really interesting answers. Yeah, joining. They're coming faster than I can read them. Coming closer. Scary height.
Okay. Well, exactly. But when I was preparing this, what you have to think about the bridge as, because you can sometimes get from one place to the other without the bridge, but it will take longer and there will be lots of obstacles. It's not that you can't get, or it will be like harder, you see. So the bridge, it's not only that they connect two parts, but the road is more enjoyable. You will be there faster, yeah, and with less effort maybe, okay? So you achieve the same goal, but in a more enjoyable way, yeah? So that's what so you see, so a bridge is there to overcome an obstacle, a river, I don't know, a pitch or something. So the idea of a bridge for me in this case is also this idea of, okay, we're getting there, we're going there, we're all going there. We want independent students, but this bridge, this mediation activities are okay. Sometimes they make it like faster, you know.
Very nice. Okay.
So I just want to show you the pictures because these are our achievements when they sit for the Trinity exams. They are so happy. We get to have them sit for the Trinity exams thanks to an alliance with Trinity Argentina. So around 40 students every year without cost, free of cost, they get to sit for the Trinity exams. And they love, you know, interacting in English with an examiner. And this is thanks to, again, to the people that are here in Argentina, Erna, Adela, Julieta, and Emilia, whom I think you know, yes? So I just wanted to mention them because for our school, again, they are part of our community, you know? And it's a school that, works so well because we are a great team and everybody's like supporting each other, not only people from within the school, but we have like a net, you know, like a net of people helping us. And that is also very important for us. Well, our Madre Teresa is our role model, yes? So she used to say, I can do things you cannot, you can do things I cannot, and together we can do great things, okay? So I do encourage you to go visit our webpage where you will see, you will not see about mediation activities, but you will see many other things we do to, again, support inclusion. As I was telling you, inclusion is not only having our students, but having them engaged, committed, you know, participating, cooperating. And I hope that you could have a glimpse from the examples I gave, okay?
Thank you, Gigi, so much for transporting us to your school.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's very inspiring, and I think that sense of pride to me is what stuck out the most. And there was a question in the Q&A that we haven't had a chance to look at, but it's about how this kind of thing would be used in multilingual classrooms. But I would say that we have a Facebook page. There's a Trinity Facebook page, so the discussion can continue. So please take a look at that. There's a lot of opportunities for teachers to share ideas from all around the world. Gigi, you might like to look on there and share some more.
Of course. I imagine it will be completely different because, again, the situations for the teachers is completely different.
Exactly, but people have joined us from all over the world.
Exactly,
so I imagine there's people in all different contexts. So thank you everybody so much for joining us. Thank you, Gigi, so much. And our next month's webinar will be a very different topic. It's about ChatGPT and using that in the classroom. So thank you for everybody here. And the final things to mention are there's no certificate of attendance for these webinars because these webinars are not training. They're just sharing of best practice. So we just hope that they've been very valuable and inspiring to you. And please look out for the email from Trinity when the recording of this is available and you can watch this again. You can see the link that Gigi mentioned to find out more about the school and so on. So thank you so much, Gigi, and I look forward to seeing everybody again next month.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
Gigi, please, you're welcome to, if you want to stay for a few minutes, turn your camera and microphone off, but read the comments.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay.